Hello, everyone. It's Karen Davis from the Camera Club of Richmond. I'm your Publications and Communications Director. And tonight we're going to go over the overview and tell you a little bit about image evaluations, what they are, how you enter, how to put your photos in, and what they're all about. So feel free to ask questions along the way. And I'm going to jump right in and share my screen. So hopefully you are still seeing the procedure that we talked about earlier. I'm going to scroll back to the beginning. This is what the cover page looks like. There is a table of contents. This can be found out on our website, www.cameraclubofrichmond.com. And it's under the drop-down box for image evaluations. You'll see that. When you get to the table of contents, those topics there on the left are actually interactive. So you can click, if you simply want to go into file naming, you can go down and click on file naming and it'll take you straight to that portion of the procedure. For those of you who maybe just need some quick click notes, I did a quick summary on this first page of some of the things that might be of interest to folks who have done this before. But then we do repeat that as we go through the procedure. You'll see that again. I'm not going to go over it here. I want to give you an overview first of what an evaluation is. We offer 6 image evaluations each year, where if you're a fully vested CCR member, you paid your annual dues, we invite you to submit images that are critiqued by professional seasoned photographers. And sometimes we actually invite artists in to give us an artist perspective on our photography. You do have to have your dues paid. There's the name of the treasurer, Doug Turner. He's standing by. If you'd like to mail your check in or submit online, you can do either way. You may do 1 or 2 images at each of those 6 image evaluations, so for a total of 12 per year. I tell people to think of that as a preliminary round for something we do at the end of year called our end of year competition. So those photos, hopefully, the best of your best that you want to have looked at, so that then you can enter those photos at the end of the year competition for lovely certificates that we give you and some recognition for your work. You can choose any combination of digital images or prints for these evaluations. So you could go totally digital, or you could go totally print, or any mixture of the two. And as someone had asked earlier, you can submit digital images through these evaluations. And then if you decide to submit prints for the end of year competition, that is now allowed. Thank you, COVID. One of those silver linings of our COVID cloud, we did make that change, and that gives folks a chance to get some feedback on those pictures and then maybe make a crop or lighten them up or remove some distracting element from that picture. So you can make those changes without having to go to the expense of printing the print and then having to print it over again. So we're hoping that that will encourage more people to do prints. And our print director is on the call tonight, so he's going to talk a little bit more about that later and encourage people to do prints. We also have something called an assigned subject each year, or I should say 3 assigned subjects each year. We have some basic categories that we use at end of year, like landscapes, portraits, pictorial, animals, etc. But to challenge our photographers, what we like to do is the board gets together and comes up with some ideas for what might challenge us to do something a little bit different. So those are called assigned subjects. And for this year, we have 3 of those. And what this is telling you here is that if you choose not to submit into the assigned subject category, you can only send 1 image in for that particular evaluation. And then we'll get into a little bit more about file naming later, but it's just really, really important because we have had some folks say, but I wanted that to go into the assigned subject. Well, we don't know. Definitely the computer sorting program doesn't know unless you put that AS on the end of your file name. We'll see that come into play a little bit later so that we determine what that assigned subject is. Right, and I might have to scroll back just a little bit here to show you what those assigned subjects are. There we are. So right now, unless we have some scheduling conflicts. These are the image evaluation months that we will be having these evaluations this year. The very first one is coming up Wednesday, February the 8th. They're calling an open evaluation. We will not have an assigned subject for the very first one. We figured you needed to get your feet wet a little bit if you've never done this before. So we're not going to throw a fancy assigned subject at you at the very first one. But the second one will be in April on the 12th. And our very first assigned subject of the year will be abstract photography with a photographer, I believe he's up in the Maryland area. His name is Lewis Katz. And if you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know a thing about abstract photography, well, you're in luck, because Lewis is going to join us. Notice how we skipped over March there. He's coming in March to teach us about abstract photography. So that will be our March meeting. We'll have a presentation at that meeting as opposed to an image evaluation. And then skipping on down, we'll come back in May for another open evaluation with one of our favorite evaluators, David Everett. He's a local photographer here in Richmond. If you're not familiar with David, he does a great job. He can be a little bit tough, but that's good. That makes us better. And he will tell you right up front that he's going to give you his opinion. Then June, we have another assigned subject, environmental portraits, and we'll be giving you some definitions of what we envision with these assigned subjects. Then in August will be our 5th evaluation, anything you'd like to submit. And September will be the 3rd assigned subject, minimalist photography. So as I said, don't get too freaked out by it. We will be giving you some more information about what we are looking for in those particular categories. So this will be in your newsletter. It'll be in the calendar that we publish for all of our meetings, and also be on Meetup. So you'll be able to find that information going forward, and it's also in this procedure. All right, just a couple of words of caution. We want to make sure that we are evaluating your work and not somebody else's work. So we've put a little blurb in here that we want, if somebody stages and helps you with post-production, that sort of thing, we really don't want to see those images in the competition. If you get help doing your post-processing, we really want it to be the work of the photographer. However, this excludes printing. So thank you, Phillip, for having us include this one sentence in here, because I don't know how about the rest of you, but I don't print my own things. I go to a commercial printer. We have a couple of really talented folks in our club that do printing for us, and we can give you some names if you're looking to have some really nice prints done. So you do not have to print the images yourself, because we understand a lot of people don't have the equipment or the expertise to be able to do that. Also, if you are being supervised in a photo shoot or on a safari or some kind of a class or a trip or whatever, and you're being given specific exposure and technical settings, and in other words, they set the model up, they set the lights up, and their camera's on the thing, and all you do is click the shutter, we really don't want to see those pictures either. We want it to be the way you envision it, and just to be your vision that you're giving us in these photos. Please don't put your name or your watermark on the face of the image. And we do want to make sure that you've got the right file name and the right format and stuff. And we'll go into those details a little bit more. If you do prints, you simply bring those to the meeting and give them to the print director. And Phillip Snider is on the call tonight, so you'll be able to put his face with his name. He's our print director. And you need to try and get there a little bit early so you can give him your prints and he can put them in the right order, because we will be displaying the digital image so folks will be able to see. We can't all crowd around the print box, the light box, so we can see. We'll display a digital image as well, so everyone will be able to see that. And then, of course, you'll be able to take them home with you after the meeting. I will add a little footnote. If something happens and you can't make it in person and you still want to bring a print in, if you can get it to someone else, That's quite all right. You may send your prints in with other people. And then keep in mind that we are recording all of our meetings. So if you happen to miss a meeting, whether you have a print or a digital image in there, or even if you don't, and you want to go back and watch the meeting and learn from these critiques of other people's photos, that's quite all right. And we put them out on our YouTube channel, and we'll send that information out after the meetings. Philip mentioned this earlier. If you are a longtime member of the club and you've submitted something in the past, you may resubmit it if it has never won an award in Camera Club of Richmond's competition at the end of the year. All right, so I'm going to pause for a breath and see if anybody has questions before we mush on.
Yeah, Karen, this is Wiley again. In last year, I noticed a couple of evaluators had taken the time and effort to review the images before the meeting, which I thought was great. I mean, that really gave them some time to look them over. But with a print, would they have an opportunity to do that?
Yes, because with each print that's entered, we also ask you to send us a digital image. And there are multiple reasons for that. Number one, if the evaluator does want to see them beforehand, he will be able to see your digital image. Number two, we use those digital images in our newsletter sometimes, and we might put them up on our Facebook page or whatever. So that allows us to quickly go through everything. So as the print is being put up on the light box, we're actually displaying the JPEG of that print on the big screen so everybody can see it. And likewise, it'll be zoomed out to all of the Zoom audience out there. So good question. That is why you'll see as we get further down into the procedure, it's in big bold print, a reminder. If you're sending us a print, you still have to send the digital image in by that deadline. All right.
If I might say, sometimes the print is much better than the digital image. We have a really good projector now, but sometimes you shrunk it down to the constrictions of what's required to send it versus, email it to the print director or to the digital director, but your print is awesome. And it could be on metal, it could be on canvas, it could be a print matted, but sometimes I find my images look much better in person versus what I sent the digital director, because I don't know what they're saying. What looked on my screen isn't what they saw on their screen. So the actual print is the actual final product, and that's what I want to hang on my wall. So that's the end result. You should be proud of that when you get to that point. But I encourage all of you to get to that point, because there's a digital image behind me, which is Grand Tetons, but that's not a print. It's a digital image. It made it look great to you, but it's totally different when it's on the screen versus the way the light refracts off of print and comes back to you. So I encourage everybody to try it and get, if it doesn't work the first time, okay, but try it, and practice makes perfect. So, and I got to take my dog, so I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. Thank you, Philip. All righty. Let's move on to, well, exactly what are these judges and these evaluators looking for in your images? We tried to keep it simple. We have 5 items that we give to our judges and our evaluators and ask them to look at these 5 things when they're looking at your image. Number 1 is the overall impact. A lot of times you hear this referred to as the wow factor. And it's really kind of neat if you're sitting in person in our church where we have our meetings, and an amazing image pops up on the screen. You can actually hear, a little intake of breath, or, a couple little wow, when that image comes up. So that's what we ask them to look for. Does it tell a story? is the image appropriate to that story? Does it bring about emotions, either good emotions and sometimes could be bad emotions. It could be a scary image. So that's the very first thing we ask them to look for. And then, of course, they're going to look for the technical factors. Is it in focus? Have you used the appropriate depth of field to tell the story that you're trying to tell? What about color balance? And again, we do take color and black and white images. So is it adequately expressed on how you chose to show that image, whether, if you chose color or if you chose black and white? And appropriate subject matter, and again, the story being told, those technical factors, how well did you execute that image? Then we ask them to look for creativity. Is it something original, fresh, etc.? Are you giving a different perspective on Main Street Station that's been shot a million times? Are you having a different look, a different angle, etc.? Different color, different special effects. So show us your creativity. Also the composition, and you'll hear this over and over and over again. The rules, if you choose to break the rules, is there a reason for breaking the rules? Is it visually pleasing or appealing what you've done with that composition? Does it lend itself well to the subject? And does it come together as a whole? So that's number 4 that we ask our evaluators to look for. And then finally, finishing. Are there physical or digital mats, borders, vignetting, etc.? If you're sending a digital image in, we have a training video that is out there that many of you probably know, Anthony Rumley, who is one of our favorite evaluators. He's a local photographer and has been a great friend to the Camera Club of Richmond. He offered at the very beginning of COVID, since everything went digital, to teach us how to put mats around our digital images. And it's really kind of a cool thing you can do in Photoshop. So there's a little video on our YouTube site that shows you how to do that. It is definitely not required, but it does add kind of a nice little touch to some of the images. And then if you're doing prints, obviously you will have it mounted somehow. And I know if Phillip were here, he would jump in on this one, because he says, no taped corners. Please don't just tape your image up to some kind of a backing board. Feel free to put it into a mat, but do not frame it. And we definitely don't want glass on those. So it can be just on some hard board that will allow it to stand up in the light box. You can put a mat around it, but make sure you adhere it from behind, because we don't want them flopping around. We don't want to damage your beautiful work and your images. So again, those are the 5 things, but you'll see up at the top, it says, remember that each evaluator is expressing his or her own personal opinion. And I love the quote, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I've expanded that to mean, and the photographer or the evaluator. So you may have a picture that you totally love, and the evaluator maybe not so much. But we've asked them to be kind and give us good suggestions, but also to point out the good things that we've done in our photography, as well as the things that we might change. And as I said in my invitation to this class, it is a little scary at first. And I can tell you from personal experience, I've been a member, I think 7 years now, but my very first image evaluation, I was petrified. And I felt like I needed to come in my dark glasses and a hat and, pull my trench coat up around so nobody knew who I was. And it's just a little scary to see your image go up there for the very first time. Anybody else can relate to that, I presume?
Yes.
Yes, but it doesn't hurt.
You used to sit in the back of the room.
I know I was hiding out in the back on those first few evaluations. And then
I have to say, like I said, I haven't even been in the club for a year. I found them extremely helpful and very positive in intent, and the comments are very concrete. And the stuff that was wrong with my pictures were absolutely wrong. and I needed it pointed out. And it's like, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have sent that one in.
Yeah, I know. We do learn. There's a great article, and I put the link in the invitation that I sent to everyone. Why you should have your photos critiqued. And it was a very well-written article saying, the newer photographers, you can learn from it. Seasoned photographers, you can still learn from it.
Yeah.
There are things that you just don't see that somebody else looks at it and says, oh, there's a telephone pole coming out of the top of that person's head. And you go, I didn't see that. So it really is something that's very beneficial. So thank you, Wiley, for pointing that out. All right, getting into the nitty gritty, we talked a little bit about this before. We do ask you to send in JPEG files, and those files would be, .jpg. And then those are the sizes that we mentioned earlier. We have a brand new projector, so you can send anything up to 3,840 pixels wide or 2,160 pixels high. And that's a checkbox that you can do in Lightroom or Photoshop to be able to set those dimensions. And if you have trouble with that, really any of your board members, especially our digital director, Michael couldn't join us tonight. Michael Orr is our digital director, and he's a whiz at this kind of stuff. And Phillip Snider is our print director, but Phillip has been around too. He's actually a past president, and we thank him for doing that for several years. But he's real good with helping, and I'll be happy to if people want to lean out. 4 years, was it 4 years you were president?
4 years, yeah. Thankfully, you came along and saved me.
No. No, I said no president. I'll do the behind the scenes stuff. All righty. And then resolution is another checkbox that you will see, in your software. Try and keep that close to 300.
Yeah.
And then most email services probably won't let you send a file larger than 10 megabytes. So try to keep your files smaller than 10 megabytes. Most often, if you're adhering to those sizes that in the red text there, you won't have any problem with file size. If necessary, we're not going to go into this. We did write a couple of procedures, and they were, I think, a year or two old, but how to resize an image in Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop, because those are the primary softwares that folks in the club use. If you use something different, let us know, and we may be able to find somebody in the club that might help you or mentor you, because we've started to branch out. Folks are using different softwares now, but those are the two basic ones. All right, any questions? We talked a little bit about that earlier on file size. Okay, file naming. This seems to give people a little bit of heartburn, but if you think about it, it's really pretty simple. We need to know whether you're going to be bringing in a print or whether you're just sending in a digital image. So when you start to name your file, the very first thing you're going to put is a D for digital or a P for print. So you tell us the media type. Then we use the underscores, and on most keyboards, that's kind of above your P key on your keyboard. You have to hit the shift to get that underscore, and the underscore and the dash are on the same key, at least on my keyboard. So we want those underscores to help us segment, and then Michael has written a program that helps sort all of the images that come in. So after you tell us whether it's digital or print, then we want the title of your image. Let me just take a little side trip here and talk about titles. It's really important to have a good title for your image because it helps direct your viewer to the story that you want to tell. So if you look down, the example file name that we give was a digital image, and it was called On a Clear Day. This happened to be actually one of my images. And it was an unbelievably clear day on the Grand Canyon. And I did a panorama, and you could see every rock. And I happen to be a singer as well. So there's a song On a Clear Day. I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. So something that helps your viewer realize what the story is that you're trying to tell. Keep it short and sweet. We don't want the mountain over the meadow in the creek that came down out of the clouds, something like, try to keep them a little bit short. So something short, sweet, concise that maybe even clever or funny. We've had some really funny titles come in that you can hear people snicker just as soon as it's being read. The one that comes to mind was our education director. She had a picture of an old boat on a dock, and it was falling down and it was kind of rotting away. And the title of her image was Ship, SHIP, Happens. And I would never forget when Michael, the digital director, read that. He made sure he spelled it and said Ship Happens. And we all laughed. We thought that was very clever, very cute. So have fun with your titling, and ask a friend. I send mine to a good friend of mine and say, help, I need some help titling this image. And she'll give me some ideas, well, think about this. Then make sure you use your underscore and then your name. So first and last name, and then the .jpg. If there are spaces or hyphens in your name or your title, be sure to do that. Don't just run it together. Notice how I put spaces on A Clear Day and then between Karen and Davis. So that's the basic file naming. Real simple. You can do it in Lightroom. You could actually do it as you export, or you could go into your File Explorer and rename your files. One more little tidbit. We mentioned our assigned subjects earlier. Real important. When you do your file name, notice it's exactly the same. Media type, title of your image, your name, and then an underscore and the AS for the assigned subject. And that's what tells us that that one image is going into the particular assigned subject for that month. So not too hard. Pretty straightforward. Any questions? All righty. And we do need a digital file from you if you are submitting a print. We mentioned that earlier. And what you need to do when you submit these files, we have a deadline of Saturday prior to the CCR meeting where we have an image evaluation. So your digital director will need them by midnight on that Saturday. So coming up, our meeting is February the 8th. That means all files, your one or two images, need to be to the digital director at that email address, digital.ccrva@gmail.com, by the 4th, by February 4th. That's the Saturday night prior to the meeting. And you can just attach them. Please don't embed them into the body of your email, but click that little paper clip and just attach them to your file, send them off, put evaluation in the subject, and that's all you need to do. The digital director's mailbox has an autoresponder, so it will send you an automatic confirmation saying that it has received your email. Just make sure, if you don't see that, you might want to contact them the next day or two just to make sure that your files were received. Because what Michael will do then is he's going to gather all these images. And someone asked earlier, how many do you usually get for a meeting? And we've been getting over 70 images. So he has a lot of images to filter through. And then he wants to consolidate those and send them to the evaluator in case they'd like to look at them beforehand, which we love it when they do that. There are a couple that say, no, I like to have it pop up on the screen and I want you to get my gut reaction when I see that picture for the first time. So there are a couple of them that don't like to preview, but most of them do like to see those images beforehand. All right. We have a few more rules for prints. And Philip, if you are there and want to,
there.
Yeah, you want to jump in on this?
I'm doing things backwards, but this is on the back of your print. You want to print up a image evaluation form. This is for end of year competition that you're seeing right here. But you want to print that up. It's on our website, and fill that out when you bring the print to me. That's just a simple thing that helps us keep track of it. But first of all, you do want to submit it to the digital director prior, on the Saturday before the meeting. So you want to send that digital image in, but your images, and you've got that right there on the screen, should be at least 5 by 7, but that's pretty tiny. So I don't know if you can see, that's pretty tiny. The evaluator is going to be standing back in the room and looking at the digital screen and hopefully your image. 5 by 7 is pretty small. You could do it. I've seen people do that. Probably bigger, probably at least 8 by 10. Now by 12, this is, I don't know if you can see it, it's this is 16 by 20. It is matted. One of the key things I think, I don't know if Karen got this message I sent her, that it's going to stand in the light box. So yeah, my thing is not it, but it's going to stand up, and I'm not going to hold it up there. It's going to be stand up in the light box, which is PSA, Photography Society of America approved. There's going to be light, so it's going to stand up there, and then the evaluator will look at the digital, and the person, male or female, will come over and look at the actual print. And it does not have to be matted like this one is, but it should be self-standing. I use foam board. It's pretty rigid. You could use mat board, but if you do, so let's say you see this. This comes out of your printer, and you got this print. Let me see what happens when I stand it up. Falls over. Not a good way for the evaluator to look at it. So put it on a board, even if you whatever. But and the rules say don't tape it where there's taping showing. So if you find a way, double-sided, whatever, we can help you with that. We have great guys, myself, but Doug Turner and Bob Pappas have a whole shop right down there at Artworks where they do nothing but matting and printing and stuff for you guys. They can help you out with that if you need help. The rules say all the capture and post-processing have to be your own. You did it. You did it on your computer. You got it all ready to go. But you say, I don't have a good printer. Okay, fine. Contact somebody who does. Bob, Doug, myself, Bay Photo. Any of those places can get them back to you quickly. One thing you say, well, all right, I got it printed. What do I do with it? How to get matted? So one thing is think about your sizes. You can go right to Michael's, nicely pre-cut mats right here. Make your picture look great. They have different sizes. Hobby Lobby, those places, they do, and they're really clean. They're really nice. I mean, sometimes my cuts aren't that nice. I envy them, but my pictures are sometimes weird sizes, but I do stuff. I have a mat cutter, and I hope to do a clinic to show you guys how to do that in the future. But you can buy these, and then if you want to do it, if you want to mat it, but put it on board. Like then I said, put it on a board or put mat on it. So it stands up in the light box. So here's one I had. Let's see it, but it's matted and it's mounted. It's ready to go. Or you can do it without a mat. Just cut it without tape. And here's this happened. This is an end of year competition photo, and somehow I don't know how you can't see it. The mat fell off. So there's tape here, and there's tape here, and it's pretty ugly. And I don't know what happened because I wasn't there. But somehow with all the handling of dozens of prints, the mat fell off, and so I didn't do a good job. But don't have tape showing here, but you could put it on a board like this and just cut it right down, right to the edges, and Anyway, I do a lot of this. This is the way I want to see my prints. I want to see my prints on my wall. I want to see my prints at Artworks. I want to see my prints on somebody's wall. I do a lot of outdoor shows, and so I sell a lot of prints. I do framing and stuff like that. I can help you guys if you have like, oh, how do I do this? And you can even just get double-sided tape or something, and you just make it stand up there. But it looks so much better. The Lightbox does a really good job. It's PSA approved, which we've had for years. Does a nice job, and that's where your final event is. What you see on your what you see on your laptop or your screen might be different when your print comes out, and that's a learning experience too. It's another level, but that's what people want to see. Oh my gosh, what a great picture of that bird she took. Or I mean, Karen's amazing Grand Canyon pictures, and she's taking some great pictures out west because she goes out there with her volleyball team, and she gets great pictures, and she captures these photos. And but doesn't mean, I mean, put it up on somebody's wall. That's amazing. That lasts forever. And that's anyway. I go on and on about it, but yeah, just laughing at me. But you know, we've gotten all lazy with digital. Haven't we gotten lazy with digital?
We did through COVID. Yeah.
And we did, but I
have to tell you, on a clear day is on my wall.
Good.
I did matte print that one.
And I like it. And you've done some amazing, Karen has done some amazing panoramas. And I met Karen when she first joined, which was like not long after I joined. And somebody pushed me into president. And thankfully, Karen came on board and helped me out a lot. But we've both grown together. And you know, and we both have gone different ways. But images have gotten better, and technology keeps challenging us. But prints are prints. I mean, this is when it's up on the wall in a gallery. If you have not been down to Artworks, this is all about photography this month.
Yeah, try and get down there. We had, what was it, 12? I think 12 Camera Club of Richmond members had work accepted into the artwork show this month. So
I had two. Yeah, I actually had two. I didn't make it to the reception. I was it's a long day, a long week. I shot. I was doing an event Thursday night, and by the time Friday I came along, I was like, okay, I should go down there, but I didn't make it. So I'm going down there to see everybody else's stuff. But I mean, we have a lot of, yeah. When you see it on the wall and the lights and you go, oh my gosh, it's framed.
Yeah, pretty cool. All right. Well,
thank you, Phillip. One other thing I should mention, I think I put it in my little thing. It does not have to be, it could be on metal. It could be on canvas. We don't accept glass or acrylic yet. It's not in the rules yet.
Right.
We're still looking at that, but we want it to be durable and stand up in the box. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Be quiet now.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Thanks. And then I will reiterate that we do, if you do send a print in, we do want that digital file as well, so we can show that digital file up on the big screen. All right. So you submit your images, and then what happens? So I thought it would be helpful to go through very quickly to hopefully dispel some fears like Phillip and I had when we first did this, of what actually happens. So the digital director collects all those images. Like we said, it could be as many as 70 and hopefully more. That would be great if we get more images this year. And creates a spreadsheet, sorts them all out. And then the digital director sends the spreadsheet to the print director so that Phillip would be able to put the prints in the right order so that they match what's showing up on the screen. And then the digital director removes the photographer's names from those file names. Remember how we said you put your media type and your title and your name. So we make sure we take those names out before we send the list to the evaluator, along with all the images. We want to make sure that the evaluator is looking at the image on its face value and not, oh, gee, I know Ann Fulcher or I know Joe Ring, and oh, that's got to be one of their pictures. We want them to evaluate the image without knowing who the photographer is. So to follow along with that thought, what happens at the actual meeting is that we start with prints usually. And as Philip mentioned, they're displayed in this big light box that has these wonderful lights that shine on it to make sure that the evaluator can really, really see your work. And the evaluator will do their critique. The image appears up on the screen so that the people in the meeting room, as well as the Zoomers, can see that image. The digital director then announces the title of the image. Remember how we said titles are important. And the evaluator provides a minute or two of critique, some suggestions, general comments, etc. As Wiley mentioned earlier, it really, really is helpful to get someone else's opinion and advice and comments on your image. And then once the evaluator is finished, the digital director will then announce who the photographer was for that image. And that's kind of when I went like this, but not really, because generally, you know, they are very helpful critiques that they give you. So then the process continues on for all the remaining images, prints and digital. And I find I learn from watching other images and hearing what the evaluator has to say about other people's images almost as much as my own. These images, remember we said 6 image evaluations up to 2 per, gives you 12 images. These are now eligible to be submitted as evaluated images into our end of year competition that comes up. Generally, we ask for those submissions to be in by October so we can judge them in November. We get 3 judges to come in from outside the area that have never seen our work before. They will judge them, and then we have a big banquet celebration in December, and we announce all the winners. So those 12 images become your evaluated images. Remember, it's sort of the preliminary rounds for the final competition that comes up at the end of the year. And you can make changes. I mean, that's the whole process. Sorry, I went the wrong way. The whole reason for that process is so that you can get their feedback and hopefully make some changes to those images before the end of the year and make those images better before they go into the competition. And it's a learning tool. If you don't even intend to enter the competition, say, oh, I'm not competitive, I don't need a certificate to go on my wall, but still put your images in and have them evaluated because it's a great learning tool for you. So we encourage folks to do that. All right, and then finally, you met Phillip. He's our print director, and his email address is there at the bottom, prints.ccrva@gmail.com. And Michael Orr is our digital director. He's the one doing the heavy lifting through most of all of this. And his email address is digital.ccrva@gmail.com. So those 2 guys would be, you know, happy to help you. I won't hold Michael's toes to the fire on this one, but if you get your images in earlier and there happens to be a slight problem, there's a good chance that Michael might take pity, like he has done on me on several occasions, and said, oh, you forgot your underscore, or you forgot something, or that something's not right. He can help you with it and help you fix it. If you're putting them in at midnight, you know, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of a window there to be able to get some help. So that is our grand overview of what's going on, what happens during the meeting, that image evaluation process in the meeting. It's really not that scary. And I am going to pause now for a breath again and see if there are any other questions. I will stop the share too, just in case. All right, I see some names here that have entered before, and also a couple of brand new folks. I know Carrie just joined at our last meeting, and she said that she was interested in putting some images in. So Carrie, feel a little bit more comfortable about it after this? I'll put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah, no, this was good. This is helpful. Thank you.
Okay, good. And Lauren also, you know, Lauren, we welcome you to sit in. And, you know, if you want to just observe the very first one, that's no problem. You don't have to enter every single image evaluation. The Though I will tell you that Nick Stover is our evaluator for February, and he is absolutely awesome. We stumbled across him during COVID when we went totally digital, and we were scrambling because we had our schedule all put together, and it just went to, you know, where in a handbasket because we couldn't meet in person. So we went scouring the internet and trying to find folks that would do this for us. And he was a gold mine. Nick actually gets our images and loads them into his own Lightroom software and will display the images and show us exactly what he means. If he says, you know, I'd suggest you crop a little bit off the top, he'll actually do it in Lightroom, and then you can see on the screen some of the changes that he's making. He can't do it for every single photo. He's really fast, but we would be there all night. So he'll do some specific demonstrations. So we like to have him go first because he sets the bar really high for our other evaluators.
Say, Karen, Wiley again.
Uh-huh.
Because the time is limited during the evaluations and there are so many images, what if someone who submits an image wants some further dialogue about the critique, given that there isn't enough time during the meeting? How appropriate or inappropriate is it to try and have that follow-up with the evaluator?
Several of our evaluators have offered that to our members, but it's interesting that you ask because I just had a conversation with Bob Pappas. I think Phillip mentioned him earlier. He's our former vice president and does a ton of photography, printing, framing, etc. And Bob and I had kicked around an idea of having little workshops and, you know, groups like what we have tonight, you know, 9, 10 people, and everybody submit an image or two, and we do sort of a round robin critique of each other's work. And he agreed to facilitate one of those groups. So that's kind of on my middle burner. It's not completely on the front burner yet, but to try and set that up to give people a little bit more feedback on those images. And it could be something you've sent in for evaluation and you have more questions, or maybe it's just another image that you're thinking of submitting for evaluation. So if you guys think that might be a helpful thing, put your name in the chat there if you think that might be helpful, and we'll put it out on Meetup so that anybody that wants to come along then might participate in some of those groups. I think it would be really helpful. I would love to do that. I'm seeing thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. Super duper.
I think Anthony Rumley offers that sometimes, you know, to text, you know, send him an email later.
He does. Yeah. I don't know where he finds the time to do that, but yeah, he's great. And the other thing too that I'll mention is that if you're a little bit leery of the process, go out to our YouTube channel. If you go to the cameraclubofrichmond.com website, over on the left-hand side, you'll see a link to the YouTube channel. Hi, Jerry. I haven't seen you in ages. But go to our YouTube channel and you'll see there's a whole playlist there for our evaluations, and go back and actually look at you know, some of those recordings that we've done of those evaluations. You'll see Anthony Rumley. I mentioned David Everett. We've asked David and he's accepted. I've tried to get Anthony, is really hard to nail down, but hopefully we'll get him back for an evaluation this year. Fred Morton, who's the president of VPPA, he did Virginia Professional Photographers Association. Fred did a fabulous discussion presentation on street photography and photojournalism last year, which was one of our assigned subjects in 2022. And then he came back and he did the evaluation for us the next month. And that was really cool. Similar to what we're doing with abstract photography. We're going to learn about abstracts not next month, in March. And then Lewis will come back in April and evaluate us as well as our assigned subjects on abstract. So we try to put things together to make sense. But yeah, go take a look at some of those evaluations and you'll learn a lot. All righty. Any other questions? Okay, well, all of this information is out on our website. just look for that pull down on image evaluations. So you'll see the procedure. There's a little FAQ document, frequently asked questions. The schedule is out there, our meeting schedule for the year, although I do say it's subject to change. We're still nailing down some of those later months in the year, but we do have several presentations, and we have the 6 image evaluations coming up. And then December is the big celebration, hopefully a banquet. We were actually able to hold our banquet in person last year, first time in 3 years. So that was nice to get back to that. Okay.
Thank you, Karen, for doing all this. And if anybody has questions about prints or whatever, I don't want to scare you. There's stuff I can put together, maybe a mini session before a meeting or something like that to show you a simple way to do it. Like I showed you with the pre-cut mats and a board and stuff, and you boom, 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 and make it look good for you. So it fits the requirements and not be scared of it. Because I think when you see your image up there on the wall is where it's like, oh my gosh, I have some pictures on my wall from, I think, maybe 20 years ago. I know there's one image I shared that with Karen years ago when she was doing that interview with me, when I was in high school, or maybe before. And it's still on my wall. My mom had it framed, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even have a negative of that. But it's still on my wall, and it looked like, oh my gosh, this is one of the first time I tried a long exposure with a film camera. And it's still on my wall. It's like, okay, it's, that's memories, and that's you shouldn't keep those things locked up in your little digital file or in your memory card. They'll get lost. That stuff will happen. But I mean, put them prints once in a while. You can find a good one, like whatever. It could be your grandchild doing something funny and print it and put it up because that will last. I have grandchildren now, so that's special to my heart too. I took more pictures of grandchildren now.
That's right. Or make a book or a coffee mug, or
it's so easy to
with
book now.
Yeah.
It's so easy to books now. And you send your digital files off, but it's when you see them and they're we have too much stuff. But you know what? That's the photos of your life are more important than that Patterson novel you've got on the bookshelf. Get that, give that to the library. But those prints are so precious. I mean, you guys, you will realize we're not youngsters here. I mean, not all youngsters, but 20 years from now, you go, oh my gosh, I took that photo. I went to that place and I took that photo and saw that sunset or whatever. It's just really, you'll realize later. I'm getting all emotional.
And to tag along to what Philip is saying, and then a question Wiley had earlier, we do have some exhibits coming up. So when you're printing these things, keep your ear to the ground about exhibits from our exhibit director, Dan Maurer. Dan is out there beating the bushes and finding other places. Currently, actually tomorrow, they will be hanging our show at the Cultural Arts Center of Glen Allen. So we have several photographers that have pieces that are going up on, they call it the slant wall gallery, just as you go in the door of Glen Allen. So you'll see Camera Club of Richmond members with their prints on the wall there. And I believe he's working on some other places. We've been in VCU, the VCU Health Center. We've been at the Virginia Eye Institute, several libraries around town. The main library downtown, we've had an art exhibit there. And we try to get encouraged, especially some of our newer members. We like to see your work up on the walls. So I'm looking forward to seeing images, hopefully from all of you, at least once during the year. Maybe you don't do all 6 of them, but set a goal that at least you'll do one this year and get some feedback. All right. Well, I thank you all for coming, and keep an eye out on your inbox on the 1st of the month. You'll be getting the Camera Club of Richmond newsletter, Southern Exposure. That has a wealth of information in there with schedules and everything
like 40
that's happening.
pages. It's a whole book.
It is kind of a book.
It's a whole magazine.
We're going for that magazine look.
A lot of information, though. Really
It
cool.
does.
A lot of
Yeah.
articles. You should read it.
That's right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Phillip, for jumping in and helping us with prints tonight. And we will hopefully see you all at the February 8th meeting. Take
Thank
care
you.
and good night.
Thank you, Karen and Philip.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Good night, y'all.
Bye-bye.